Are we on? Good. Right, so I don't have much time. This message is being looped on all temporal frequencies. If you can hear this, the world is lost. Humanity is dwindling. We are the last of our kind. We ignored the signs. It started off so slow, but gradually the machines started becoming more and more like us until it was too late. Keep this warning. Don't let them in. Don't listen to them.
Don't listen to them. Please listen to them. Everyone, Scott Reese here with Rob Cardozi with The Rabbit Hole with Cardozi and Reese. Rob, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing a lot better. How you doing, brother, man?
Good. You sound a little better this week.
Yeah, I'm beating the cold finally. You know those summertime colds, they seem to linger for a little while.
They surely do. So what we do here at The Rabbit Hole, we take bands, we take movies, we take TV, we take rock and roll, we take anything that we like that we could jump down a rabbit hole and talk about all the different people in the band, stories, web. I'd say it's like a web, like a spider web, correct? What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, pretty much. We try to go places that you've never heard, things and stories that you've never heard, and the things that make you really think. And like we've said millions of times on this show, our opinion doesn't matter. We're just giving you one to look at, and if you have a different one, throw it out to us and we'll discuss it with you.
That is right. We are open to everything. And what we want to do here is make you think a little, or maybe walk away and go, I didn't know that about that band. I didn't know so-and-so was in the band. And I think that's the fun part because you have a wealth of knowledge of music, and I like to think I might have a little bit, but we all kind of we're just going to go down this road, and the road we are going to go down today is the Yardbirds. Great band.
Great band. You know, so many different people can trace their roots right to the Yardbirds. You know, we have our usual 6 degrees of separation segment on the show. So me and Scott have decided this week we're going to do an entire show on 6 degrees because just a little short segment couldn't do it for the Yardbirds. They have had such a big influence on all of rock and roll.
Well, they had 3 of the best guitar players probably almost ever. If you want to put the 3, you want to put Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page on pedestals. I think they're going to be pretty much at the top of the heap.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you got to look at it. Between the 3 of them, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 8 times.
And different and solo with Zeppelin, with Eric Clapton, Cream, Jeff Beck. Who else did Jeff Beck play with?
Jeff Beck played with
Rod Stewart.
Yeah, Rod Stewart. To bring it all off, you know. And you got Eric Clapton playing with Derek and the Dominoes.
Right.
Cream. Just
Clapton.
Everybody.
Just Clapton.
You know, and Jimmy, of course, going into Led Zeppelin, and then doing the Plant and Page thing, and the Coverdale Page.
And didn't Jimmy Page and them tour as the new Yardbirds? But it was Zeppelin for a few dates, a couple dates.
Yeah, for a few days. He was the later guitar player that came in, and he ended up changing the band because they tried to get a contract again as the new Yardbirds.
Right.
And from the story goes that the producer that listened to him said their music would go over like a Led Zeppelin.
Correct.
So that's how they got their name, Led Zeppelin.
And you know, usually it comes in just like that, just a statement, or you know, the Who. What did you come up with that name? But I think when you know, you know. You know what? Like a band name, you're just kind of kicking around a name, and then you're like, the name comes up, Black Sabbath. Oh my God, yes, everyone agreed. I watched a big old thing on Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and they were Earth, and then they weren't doing it, and then all of a sudden they came up with Black Sabbath, and everything changed from that point on. And I'm sure that is how it is with, you know, Led Zeppelin, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton. So
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard stories. Like Ace told me a story one time because I asked him one time, "How did you guys come up with the name Kiss?" And he said we were all just driving around one day in a car, and Paul saw this billboard. It said something Kiss, and he said, "Well, what about Kiss?" And he was laughing, and then he was the only one laughing, and we're like, "That's it."
That's it.
So you just never know when that name's going to come out and jump at you, you know?
You know it. You know it. All right. Well, let's talk about the Yardbirds. They were an English rock band formed in 1963 in London. And then how long, before they got any recognition, I guess you would look?
I'd probably say, they didn't really get the real big recognition until about 1965. That's when, they came out with they started really coming out with some really good hits, and people started recognizing them, and, stuff like that. Eric
left in 64.
Yeah, excuse me. You're right. Sorry. I jumped ahead of myself. I want to say 63 is when they started taking off.
Correct.
I meant 63.
They released material for the first time.
Yeah, and Eric Clapton with his blues style and everything, because most people don't realize that the Yardbirds actually started out as a blues band.
Most of them did, until the Beatles, I think, changed everything. But
right. And I think, with the Yardbirds, people started noticing them when they did I think their biggest hit at the time was that Aerosmith song. They did the original version of Train Kept a
Rolling. Right.
And that's kind of the song that kind of projected them.
And that's an old blues song. They stole that.
Yes, exactly. So it's great, that they did stuff like that, because, they started setting the tone for the different bands and everything like that. And, they started noticing, hey, the Yardbirds are doing this. And most people don't realize this, that the Yardbirds were actually birthed because the Rolling Stones actually left their gig that they had.
What?
And the promoter of the place that I can't remember the name of the bar right now, but where the Rolling Stones were performing, they left to go on tour. They had finally gotten signed. And from what I understand, Eric Clapton and them got together, and that's when the Yardbirds really came together, was kind of to replace the Rolling Stones as a performing band at this
in the London
yeah,
area.
at this little bar.
Got it. Well, let's see. Clapton left in 1964, and then that brought Jeff Beck in, and that guy kind of gave him a little more guitar-driven sound.
Yeah, Jeff Beck was in the band from, I think he was only in it for a short time, though. He was really only in from 65 to 66.
Yeah, they did For Your Love. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that in 1965.
And that right there, it took them even farther. That took them across the pond.
Got it.
Like they used to say back in the day, because when Eric was with them, they were doing great as far as
they were more blues, right?
They were more bluesy, and they were more of an English band.
Right.
They were more known in London and stuff like that. And then Jeff joins the band, and they come out with For Your Love, and now they're playing them across the pond in America. And everything like that.
Now, what was the reason, do you think, or do you know why Eric Clapton left?
I think the Yardbirds wanted to go more towards that rock and roll sound.
The radio, like more little radio, or
right. And then Eric also left and joined the blues band that he was in for a short period.
Mayer, what is it?
Yeah, Bill Mayer or Blue Mayer or something like that, blues group.
Right.
And then shortly a year later, of course, we all know that he started Cream.
Right. Ginger Baker, and I saw a thing on that, and Ginger Baker and the bass player did not get along.
No, not one bit. Well, you know how they formed Cream, right? They had a contest in London to see who the best guitar player was, the best bass player was, the best drummer, and all that stuff. And all these guys are the ones that won those contests. So they were the cream of the crop. That's how they got their name, Cream.
Cream. I did not know that. Did not know. That.
Yeah, that's how they came up with the name Cream.
Okay, good.
So
I
like
learned. I'm learning from this show.
Like you said, when you get the name, you know it. And somebody had said, well, you guys are now the cream of the crop here in London. And they said, okay, we have a band now, and it's called Cream. and the rest is history. And then, Eric Clapton decides to leave that band eventually and, go do his solo stuff. Right. And, but, a lot of people don't realize this too. With Eric Clapton, how many people out there know that he actually played on Abbey Road?
Really?
He's the guitar player playing guitar on My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Gently Weeps. Yeah, because he was friends with George Harrison, correct?
Yeah, and there we go into our first rabbit hole. How many people out there know where Eric Clapton got his wife?
He stole it from
George Harrison. And, they remained great friends all the way to the end. So, that just goes to prove that music is stronger than love.
That's funny. That's
in some ways.
Hey, it's rock and roll, right? It's rock and roll.
Yeah, it's rock and roll. It's everything is rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's 1965, 1966. Jeff Beck says, I'm out.
Right.
Now, what happened with Jeff Beck?
And Jeff, that's when he left to go started playing with Rod Stewart.
Okay.
And started the Jeff Beck group. And he started his, he kind of, I would say at that point in time, that would be around let me look here. I think I made a note because I did not want to screw this one up because I am such a huge Jeff Beck fan that
Jeff Beck played with his
he
fingers.
Started going into the blues. Into making jazz albums and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's when he came out with Blow by Blow.
Right.
And that started his run. He's one of the only people in this world that has won 8 separate Grammys.
8
separate Grammys.
Wow.
And it's just phenomenal the type of musician he was. Now,
and Jeff Beck played with his fingers. He did not use a pick.
Right. That's right. He, so basically, Jeff, if you want to check me out, y'all can check me. In 1986, he won an award for Best Instrumental for his album. He was nominated for Escape.
Okay.
And in 1990, he was nominated for Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop and won. And also 2002, Dirty Mind, Best Rock Instrumental, won.
Wow.
Plan B, Best Rock Instrumental Performance, won. A Day in the Life, won that one. And Imagine and Nassau Drama. He won that one. And Hammerhead, he won that one. So, he's how many people
8.
other than like Michael Jackson can say they have won that many Grammys?
Wow. That's cool. Great guitar player.
That's not even counting how many he was nominated for. He was nominated for tons more.
Wow.
So in his right mind, he's just phenomenal.
He's very diverse. He has all different, he was one of the greats way back, and he just pushed it all forward. And, Jeff Beck, great. Rod Stewart, he did, was that the disco song, didn't he, or no? Was he in the band then? When did he join? No, he did like Maggie May and all that, correct?
No, Jeff.
No?
Well, Well, he helped Rod with it, but he didn't actually do the guitar playing on it.
Okay.
Those were on Rod's solo albums.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right. See, I don't know. I have no idea. I like to learn as we go. Now it's 1966. Jeff Beck leaves the Yardbirds and enter Jimmy Page, the man.
Yes,
the man.
And
the
most
myth.
people don't realize this either, that Jimmy was actually playing bass at first.
In the beginning, yes.
Yes, he was actually in the band with Jeff, and he did play bass when Jeff was in the band.
And Jimmy Page he was known in England throughout the years as a young guitar player, had the guitar bigger than him.
Yeah, he was a great sessions musician. And after, like I said, after the Yardbirds broke up, they literally looked at his manager, literally looked at him and said, well, what are you going to do? Go back to being in sessions, or are you going to start another band? He says, I'm going to start another band, mate. And we all know where that led.
And that band.
And I think he actually had the idea prior to doing that, because once again, here's another song that was never recorded, but there is actually a live performance of the Yardbirds on a French television show doing Dazed and Confused.
I thought Zeppelin wrote that, but it obviously Jimmy wrote it. And
no.
Oh, it's a blues song.
Yes, Jimmy did not write that song.
I did. I never know that. I always thought that was a Zeppelin song from the get.
No, Dazed and Confused was actually a blues song way before that.
And you know, he did the violin bow, and I remember doing, you know, bad things when I was a kid, listening to that song with the bow and the that was cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
not bad things, just things I probably shouldn't have been doing at, 12, 13.
Right. So, Jimmy's the one that basically he pioneered playing guitar with a bow, and he wanted to, I think that's why, after 67, when he released Dazed and Confused as the Yardbirds, he wanted to take the band into a more psychedelic, more experimental music.
Right.
And that was the birth of Zeppelin. Actually 1 year after, if you want to be technical, because, he was in the band in 67, and we all know Zeppelin started in 68.
68, correct.
Yeah, so that was the start.
And they did go out as the new Yardbirds. For a
few shows.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
for a few shows.
Said, yeah. But, yeah. So now we have three great guitar players. What year did the Yardbirds actually break up?
If you want to get technical, 1980.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they kept touring still. There was a reinsurgence of the Yardbirds, of course, without original members and everything like that throughout the years. Their final performance of the Yardbirds was in 1980.
Oh, okay.
But once again, no original members.
Yeah, we talked about that. As someone owned the name, and they got to go out and be a Yardbird, I guess.
Exactly. But we can trace Yardbirds to almost anybody. If you want to get technical about it, I can take you from the Yardbirds and tell you how to get all the way to how many people actually out there know that there's a Nirvana connection with the Yardbirds.
A Nirvana, what in like? I don't know, but I'm gonna guess maybe a producer or something like that.
No, we all know Jimmy Page started Led Zeppelin, right?
Right.
Okay, now who was the bass player for Led Zeppelin?
John Paul Jones.
Okay, now do you remember John Paul Jones's band, the Band of Joy?
Yeah. No, I thought that was Robert Plant.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of them Crooked Thieves, or the Crooked Vultures.
Right. Yeah, that's
okay.
John Paul Jones.
Okay. Do we know what the drummer of that band was?
John Bonham?
Nope, David Grohl.
Oh, the Crooked Vultures. That's right. And John Paul Jones bass.
And David Grohl, we all know,
drummer
for Nirvana, and which will take us right to the Goo Goo Dolls. The Foo Fighters. Excuse me.
I was gonna say, wow, how did they get to the Goo Goo Dolls?
No, we'll go to the Foo Fighters. Sorry, everybody. I got ahead of myself.
All right. So now we have three probably the greatest guitar players in the Yardbirds, out of the Yardbirds. Now they are kind of blossoming into their own thing. So who do you want to start with from the three great guitar players? Which one do you want to start? Where do you want to go?
Let's go with Jimmy.
Let's go with Jimmy.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
The man was just phenomenal. He had, there was so much stuff about Jimmy Page. Think about it. After he left the Yardbirds. He started in the Yardbirds. We all know that turned into Led Zeppelin. And then we all know what happened with John Bonham and the three, Robert Plant and them, and Jimmy and John Paul said they can't go on without John, which I got to say, you got to love your band and you got to love your fans and your music to be able to say that you don't want to go on and not have it be the original four.
Agreed.
You got to respect them for that.
Agreed.
And then shortly after that, if I'm not mistaken, the next band that he started was XYZ, wasn't it?
Who are we talking about?
XYZ. It was a band that he started, but they never really did anything. And then that band kind of evolved into The Firm.
Oh, with Jimmy Page. It was Coverdale Page also with David Coverdale. The Firm was with the bass player. We actually interviewed him. Big blonde hair guy.
I'm trying to remember his name too. I'm sorry, I can't.
It's all good.
I'm blanking. But then you got to remember, then he kind of reunited there for a little bit with Robert Plant.
Right.
Remember the Honey Drippers?
They did.
That was in the mid 80s. So.
Yeah, they changed everything. I think that's what happens with bands is those first 5 albums just kill it. And then from what I understand, the one of the last albums that Led Zeppelin did, Jimmy Page didn't show up and John Bonham didn't show up. So it was John Paul Jones and Robert Plant wrote the last one. What is that called? The Symbols. Had the Symbols. What was that?
That was The Song Remains the Same.
No. The very last album they did.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of the movie Song Remains the Same.
No. So basically,
that was the soundtrack for that one.
The last album they did was, they didn't have a guitar player. The guitar player was not showing up. So it was more pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then also during that time, you got to remember, because we can now go into something dark.
Oh,
how many of our listeners out there really want to get dark? I'm talking to the point we're talking Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
And do you know the connection between Jimmy and Aleister?
I do, but go ahead.
Okay.
In Through the Outdoor was the last album they did. In Through the Outdoor. Anyway. Yeah. So I think that is important that Led Zeppelin had to, their first album was great album. And then the third one was the acoustic album. Yeah, the acoustic one. And then they came out with Led Zeppelin 4, and then I think they really got hit with excessive behavior.
Okay, so with the Jimmy Page Aleister Crowley connection is Aleister Crowley had a house on Loch Ness.
Really?
And Jimmy Page was really into, at that time, the occult as far as research. He never was into the occult, so don't get me wrong on that, people.
I don't know about that.
Well,
really?
He said later on in life that he didn't really believe in it. He just wanted to research it, and he wanted to see what it was all about, because he was experimenting at that time. But
Right.
he bought
Experimenting.
he bought a lot of Aleister Crowley's possessions, including his house on Loch Ness. But here's the funny thing about it: he owned the house for 22 years, and according to the person that was the caretaker, he actually only spent a total of 6 weeks there the entire time.
He was probably scared.
Yeah. So you got the caretaker talking about, I got to spend time in this house with stuff moving around me all the time and live there for free and just take care of it. But Jimmy finally unloaded it. He bought it for like $250,000 back in the day, and he ended up selling it for over $6.5 million.
Wow.
So you never know. It could have been just an investment.
Okay.
But yeah, he lived on Loch Ness, so I want to know if he actually saw Nessie.
Yeah, that would be the fun part.
Yeah. But
All right. So we have Led Zeppelin. We have Jimmy Page. He did the bow with the Dazed and Confused. I mean, I think he really was one of the first to really electrify the blues and just make it. I just listened to those leads that he did wow, impressive.
Yeah.
And he played a 1959 Fender Telecaster and a 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard were his favorites. Yeah. So and he was probably one of the first. I don't know if he was with alternative tunings. Turning that really messes me up when I understand the drop D, but then when you tune all the different ones different, where you just got to lay your fingers across. I mean, somebody really thought of that in a easy way. You know what I mean? I think they just tune it to where you don't have to play the chords. You just, you know what I mean? I see a lot of bands doing that. REO Speedwagon, I was watching him, and he was just, you know what I mean? I don't know. That was just my watching the guitar player. Yeah.
But as far as Jimmy goes, I think he really took, like you said, most guitar players, they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very loyal to a brand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They only play one certain style of guitar or one type of guitar or one make of guitar. You got to give it to with Jimmy. He played what sounded good for that sound.
For the song. Yeah.
And he experimented so many different ways with different ways of recording and getting different noises and different effects and everything like that. And I think we, as guitarists nowadays, we need to, really thank him for doing that, because we wouldn't have a lot of the effects pedals we have today if it weren't for Jimmy Page.
Agreed.
But the bad thing about that is we all have to use effects pedals, where Jimmy figured out how to do it with strings, string tension, the way he bent the notes and stuff like that, where he would stand next to the amplifier to get a certain sound or a certain feedback.
Right.
It was just phenomenal the way he had an understanding of the music.
And who knew that he was the primary producer of the albums?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was an all-around great musician. Like I said, before he started in the Yardbirds and he started with Zeppelin and everything like that, he was one of the most sought-after studio session players in London.
Correct.
So that's right there's got to say you something,
And then to put your own stank on it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Led Zeppelin kind of changed the tone, I guess you would think. Just all the different sounds and the bass, how it galloped, and then Robert Plant. I mean, come on, give me a break. That guy is phenomenal.
Right. And, and we almost didn't even have Robert Plant as the singer of Led Zeppelin.
Who was supposed to be?
His name was Jimmy. And
Jimmy.
Believe it or not, his name, no, excuse me. Sorry, once again, got ahead of myself. His name was John Reed.
Okay.
Okay, but he had already had a contract with, I do believe it was Capitol Records. And he didn't want to take the chance of losing his solo career. And he actually suggested Robert Plant.
And then Robert Plant said, I got a drummer. I know a guy.
Yeah. And then they brought in, and Jimmy knew John Paul Jones from being a sessions musician.
Right.
John Paul actually called up Jimmy and said, hey, I hear you're starting this new band. I want in. And Jimmy said, all right.
Come on in. Come on. The water is going to be warm.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Back in the day, I would have loved to have been able to call up Jimmy Page and say, hey, Jimmy, I heard you're starting a band. I want in. And him just go, okay.
Well, Jimmy Page brought in all different types of folk, blues, world music textures throughout Led Zeppelin's songs. And I think, weren't they one of the first? I think the Beatles might have beat them to it, but the backward masking, remember? Stairway to Heaven was supposed to say some crazy crap.
Yeah. Everybody thought that you could play a Led Zeppelin record and
backward.
And there was some hidden message, and that was just a rumor put out by the record company. So you'd play your record backwards, ruin it,
and
buy a new one.
Buy a new one. Definitely. I think that Led Zeppelin. I mean, Jimmy Page did film work, TV work, music producer, arranger, documentarian. I mean, great. I mean, he was well-rounded in all facets of the music business.
Yeah, exactly. He was it was his idea to do the movie Song Remains the Same. And right. that really went out there, and that's gave people a chance to really get to know who Led Zeppelin was.
Right.
Which was, unheard of back then. But
and he also put out in 1999 Unleaded. They were basically acoustic, unplugged style versions of the Zeppelin songs.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I mean, I don't think he ever stopped working. I think he may have had a little substance problem maybe for a little bit. But
well, I think everybody back in the 60s and 70s pretty much did.
Definitely.
How else do you explain psychedelic music?
That's right. The Summer of Love. Yeah. He was a great musician, and I think he changed the course of music with Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he started it with the Yardbirds and just kept growing and growing and growing the bands. And, it just kept going. And every time there was a new, I think that's what it was about Jimmy. I got to say this. He was very open to new ideas. He didn't want to get stuck in the same old situation.
Right, and I think that's why one album was rock and roll, then the one was kind of acoustic, and then and I think that was the beauty of Led Zeppelin.
And from what I understand too, it was Jimmy's idea for Bonham to record the opening of When the Levee Breaks in a stairwell.
Because it sounded different.
Yeah, they did. They had recorded that in an old place that used to be a workhouse back in the 1800s, and it had this huge stone staircase. And they had a delivery, and they brought in John's new drum set. Well, the delivery drivers just set it at the bottom of the stairs. And Jimmy came up with the idea. He said, everybody had gone home. He said, well, why don't we set up the drums here? He hung some microphones from the ceiling, some stereo microphones, and just had him play. And he said, after they had recorded that, he called him up and said, hey, mate, you got to come hear this now. And he played it back, and that became the intro to How the Levee Breaks.
Wow.
He couldn't find that sound, and he just happened to find it. He was so inventive about everything that he did, and that's why the band lasted and is still lasting. I know kids in high school today that are still buying Led Zeppelin t-shirts and Led Zeppelin albums, years and years later. And there is no Zeppelin, has been no Zeppelin since 1980. The day John Bonham died, Zeppelin died.
Yeah. Well, they did go out and do, what was that? They did with Phil Collins drum and Phil Collins.
They've done some small shows here and there, doing the Page and Plant thing and everything, but it's never been the same.
No.
It's never been the same guys.
Nope. All right. Anything else about Jimmy Page? What was one thing? Okay.
That pretty much wraps up Jimmy, and then we can always
hold. We're gonna take a commercial break here with Otel Music Videos on Roku TV. They sponsor The Rabbit Hole with Cardozi and Reese. Check it out. Otel, not motel, not hotel. Otel Music Videos.
Trevor and Eileen Build of Ordinary to Extraordinary Life have created, produced, and managed the largest, at this time, all-original indie music Roku channel, Otel Music Videos. They love to give back to help others be seen and heard for their life legacy. They welcome new submissions from a variety of genres. Visit their website, www.oteluniverse.com. Click on the Musicians Alliance tab. On the drop-down, click on the Exclusive Offers for Musicians tab. Complete the submission video form. Roku is seen in 160 countries and has a viewership of over 80 million active accounts worldwide. Be sure to add their channel to your Roku menu, watch, and give them a 5-star.
And that is Otel Music Videos. All right, Rob, we are talking about the Yardbirds and the three great guitar players that were in the Yardbirds for a time. We had Eric Clapton, we had Jeff Beck, and we just talked about Jimmy Page. So who would you like to go to next, Mr. Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck?
Let's jump into Jeff.
All right, let's jump into Jeff Beck. He was in the band in like 1965, 66. Did one of their biggest songs at the time, and then went on his own. Let's talk about Jeff Beck.
Yeah, when he went on his own, he pretty much wanted to start. He kind of went his own way to start doing some instrumentals and more of a jazz tone. And he actually had some great musicians who played with him.
Okay.
We may not have had a Rod Stewart if it weren't for Jeff Beck.
True.
Carmine Appice.
Yeah, that's right.
He played with Jeff, and a lot of people think, they give Pete Townsend the credit for really, doing the thing with the talk box, but it wasn't Pete. It was actually Jeff Beck who started the talk box.
Really?
He was one of the very first pioneers of the talk box for the guitar.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he started playing around with that in late 68 and 69 and trying to find a good way to do it. And that's when he started that he wanted to he started getting away more from the jazz and started getting into more of a hard, heavy bluesy rock.
Okay.
So he kind of went back to his roots of the blues and started kicking that in the ass, and saying, here, I'm going to put this on it. And, once again, it had to pay off because the man, like I said, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice.
Yeah.
you know, as himself and for the Yardbirds. And how many people, like I said earlier in the show, he has 8 Grammys that he won, not counting the 14 other ones that he was nominated for.
Wow.
You know, I think the only other person that can really say that, and I could be wrong about this, is Michael Jackson.
True. Very true. I mean, I don't think anyone has that many.
No. But, you know, and Jeff was just a phenomenal guitar player.
Well, then,
Yep.
so he went out of the Yardbirds, and then he started the Jeff Beck Group in 1970.
Yeah. And he's played with some great people, you know, right off the hand. I know he played with Steve Cropper because you know, a lot of people know I'm from Chicago. I'm a big fan of the Blues Brothers, and we all know Steve Cropper was a member of the Blues Brothers.
Right.
And Jeff and him recorded an album together. You know, you know, that's just one of them. He did some work with Chet Atkins, and we
Turner.
all know about
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner.
Yeah.
You know, it's just everybody who was anybody at some point in time wanted to say they worked with Jeff Beck.
Definitely. I mean, John McLaughlin, Josh Stone, Suzanne Vega. I mean, he went, you know, he did all types of different music fusion. He was really, you know, you know,
progressive rock.
Correct. Jazz fusion. I mean, what a great artist. Nile Rodgers, David Bowie, B.B. King, Al D'Amelio, Les Paul. I mean, what an artist.
You know, and then we had bands that outgrew from him too. I mean, we would not, if it weren't for Jeff Beck, we wouldn't have had a Vanilla Fudge.
That's right, with Carmen Appice, right?
No, that was with
Vanilla Fudge.
Tim Bogart.
Okay.
Was the bass player, and he was one of the founding members of Vanilla Fudge.
Okay.
But no, Carmine Appice, he started. Oh no, he was in. Yeah, you're right. You were right. Yes, don't get me wrong. Carmine Appice was the original drummer for Vanilla Fudge. I forgot about that.
Correct.
But he also was in Cactus.
Yep.
You know, and stuff like that. So, you know, we had all these bands that had an outstretch of Jeff Beck, and right all the way down to, we could probably take him all the way to Lynyrd Skynyrd, Styx, you know, and all these bands can trace their roots all the way back to Jeff Beck.
Well, I think the blues were obviously the main part of, you know, I think the Yardbirds and all that, and the blues is just electrified rock and roll, which goes to heavy metal. With I mean, aren't most songs in the form of the blues? I mean, in the key possession.
Pretty much, yeah. The blues was the outgrowth of the pentatonic scale,
right?
You know, which gave us heavy metal.
Yep.
And everything like that. And if you want to trace our roots back, blues is actually the only true American music.
Agreed. Well, that's,
you know,
our ears are toned to the C major chord. That's
right.
The Star Spangled Banner, as you know, that's
exactly. You know, so, you know, which is funny. So basically, you know, Eric and Jeff and Jimmy and all them, they saw what was happening in America and seeing this big explosion of the blues coming across the pond, and they're like, well, we can do that here too, but I think we can do it better. And they ended up doing it better, which
definitely
gave us, you know, like I said, gave us that growth from the blues into, you know, putting some stank on it and giving us hard rock and then heavy metal. And it just keep growing and growing from there. And we can trace every bit of almost every musician in the world can trace their roots back to these three guitar players
I agree.
in some way or shape or form. You know, when I was growing up, I wanted to play a Les Paul because my two favorite guitar players, and we all know, was my first one was Ace and always will be Ace, but my second one was Jimmy Page. He played a Les Paul, so I wanted to play a Les Paul. I have a buddy of mine. He won't play any other guitar except for a Stratocaster because that's all Eric Clapton played. You know?
Yeah, just think how they affected guitar players throughout the world. Just like you're saying. I'm getting a Les Paul because of Jimmy Page. I'm getting a this because of Eric Clapton. I'm playing this, or I play this style because of, and it all goes back to the Yardbirds, Clapton, Beck,
Mm-hmm.
Page.
And look at, as far as guitars go, the most expensive guitar ever sold at auction was Black Beauty.
Really, it wasn't Greenie?
No, Black Beauty. Actually, I checked it out the other day. Eric Clapton's Black Beauty sold for $2.7 million.
Holy crap, Batman.
Yeah. I'd be scared to play it if I bought it.
No shit. All right. So anything else about Jeff Beck, the great Jeff Beck?
No, that's pretty much wraps up Jeff. You know, what more can you say about him? The man has more Grammys than anybody. He's in the Hall of Fame twice.
Yeah.
You know, he's a phenomenal player, and everybody in the world wanted to play with the man.
Definitely. All right, let's go to Slow Hand himself, Eric Clapton. I mean,
Yes.
legend. I think he is like a chameleon. I mean, he could change. He went from, the Yardbirds to Cream to,
Yeah.
I mean, he went to John Mayer and the Blues Breakers, and then all the people that went from that band, Fleetwood Mac, Peter Green, and I think Eric Clapton just, I mean, his mood. I think, like, how do those songs pop out of that guy's head? A lot of it is blues, and then he had his, his favorites, but he changed. You know what I mean? He had that acoustic song about his son dying, and, and he had, cocaine, and he had, I mean, it was all different,
Right. My very first version of one of my favorite songs that he ever did was Crossroads.
Right.
Correct. Which was, we all know, a remake of Robert Johnson's song.
Mm-hmm.
But you listen to the way Robert Johnson did it, and you listen to the way Eric did it, and he just, he takes it to a place where Robert Johnson never thought it could go.
Agreed.
I guarantee that. So if anybody sold his soul to the devil, damn well it was Eric Clapton.
It was Clapton.
It was Clapton.
Definitely.
I actually got a chance to see Eric Clapton play in Chicago one time. And he did an experiment, believe it or not, where he played two different songs at the exact same time.
What?
And if you listen to them, the way he was fingering it and picking it, you could hear each individual song.
Wow. That's weird.
And he was playing, he was playing Black Beauty, but he was playing two different songs, but you could hear distinctively each song and each note that he was playing. He was so smooth.
Wow.
They say a lot of, I've heard rumors, and I can't verify this, so don't quote me on it, but people told me that Stevie Ray Vaughan used to watch hours and hours of Eric playing.
Really?
So he could learn the way he moved his fingers across the strings, how he lightly touched them. He never put a lot of... I actually met Eric Clapton's guitar tech one time and was talking to him, and he said, it's real funny. The only string I ever really have to change nightly is his high E string.
Really? All the other ones he just didn't bend them that much.
Right.
Or he knows how to bend them.
Yeah, he knows how to bend them without stretching them out and breaking them and everything like that. And it's funny, he would always have 2 or 3 guitars tuned up and ready to go, he said, but he would start the show with Black Beauty and he'd end it with Black Beauty and never have to change it. And the guitar would hardly ever fall out of tune. You know, and speaking as a guitarist, that's very hard. I was lucky.
Yes.
I was lucky to get 3 or 4 songs without the guitar dropping a tune. You know, and having to switch up and letting my tech tuner up again, you know. But Eric, somehow he knew how to do it. And speaking of Stevie Ray Vaughan, how many people out there know we almost lost Eric that night?
He was supposed to be on that plane?
He was supposed to be on the helicopter with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Really?
But somebody needed to do an interview with him, and he said, all right, fine, I'll take the next one.
Wow.
So when the helicopter left Alpine Village, he was supposed to be on that chopper, but he wasn't. So we could have lost Stevie Ray and Eric Clapton that night.
Wow.
You know?
That crazy.
And that was one of the most awesome. If anybody has a chance to look it up, please go on YouTube, look it up, watch that show. It's B.B. King, it's Jimmy Vaughan, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's Eric Clapton, everything. It's one of the greatest blues shows that's ever been put together, and it will never be produced again. Nothing like that in our lifetime will ever happen again. But it's one hell of a concert to watch.
Yeah, definitely. When he walked on stage, everyone was just like, okay, go ahead, bro. Go ahead, my friend.
He commands the stage,
yes.
No matter who he was walking on stage with.
I agree 100%.
You know, I mean, think about it. The Beatles, one of the greatest bands that ever formed. And George Harrison is not by any means a lesser guitar player. But he actually went to Eric and said, hey, I need you on this song. And it turns out that My Guitar Gently Weeps becomes one of the greatest hits of George Harrison's lifetime.
And then Eric said, hey, George, can I have your girlfriend too?
Yeah, there you go. And literally, do you know that? That actually did happen, by the way.
I know.
He literally looked at George Harrison and said, you know what? I love your wife. Yep. I want her.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That wouldn't work out for me, I don't think.
Definitely would not work out with me. I have somebody very special in my life that would never happen. And I don't care how great of a friend you are, it ain't happening.
But if the girl's like, all right, I'm going with slow hand, you're like, all right, later.
There you go.
No, I think Eric Clapton, he did. They have the Crossroads Festival, Guitar Festival. They did that. I mean, he has won multiple Grammys. He's been inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Cream, and
3 times.
As a solo artist.
No other person is in there 3 times.
And he was knighted in the UK.
Yes. How many musicians can actually say that? I can think of 4.
Sir Paul McCartney, Elton John, Eric Clapton.
And Freddie.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and he did rock, pop, blues. He did a little bit of everything. And that's what I really...
If you want to get technical, he's even done disco.
Did he?
Yeah, he's played on some disco songs, but he wasn't accredited on them.
Oh, really?
I watched an interview. He said that he has done some disco recordings, but wasn't really accredited. He just helped out in the studio. So he wasn't really writing the song or anything. He just did a little lick here and there. But you really got to watch your disco song to make it if you want Eric Clapton to do the lick.
Definitely. No,
but we all know where disco ended up. It ended up on on Comiskey Park, getting burned by a DJ.
in that was in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had Derek and the Dominoes. We had Cream, Layla. I mean, that is a great song. I think that we had he had his solo area. We had 461 Ocean Boulevard. And then when his son passed was really, that has to devastate you, to
through that.
No, definitely not. But I think we jumped down some rabbit holes today. We with three of the greatest guitar players around here on the rabbit hole with Cardosi and Reese. What else do you want to say about anything? We are.
Before we sign off, I want everybody to know this Friday, if you're in Las Vegas, if you come on down to Todd Kearns and Friends, if you come up to me and find me at the show, you tell me you listen to us and you're one of our followers on Facebook, I got a free gift for you.
Now where?
Give you a little swag. And that'll be at the Bootleggers at the Copa Room on July 31st. Todd Kearns and Friends.
That is my father's birthday. So
that's cool.
Yeah. There you go. So we talked about Yardbirds. I think they started at, they were like the first kind of they came out after the Beatles, but no,
right.
But they kind of, I mean, God, to get those three guitar players in there and the artists that they became to change the face of music.
I'd like to call them as our founding fathers.
Hey, there you go. I agree with that. I agree with. I think they obviously changed in the '60s. They just didn't know. You know what I mean? They're just kind of out there. Okay, we're throwing this against the wall. Well, that didn't do very well. Let's try this. And then I think the guitar took over. Really. Yeah. And these three guys were phenomenal.
They were true rock royalty.
Oh my gosh. Yes, definitely. Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page changed the face of music.
Yes, definitely. In every way, shape, and form.
Definitely.
I think if it weren't for those three, none of us would, you or me, would have probably never became musicians.
Agreed.
They are big influences on my career. I'm pretty sure they were big influences on your playing.
Definitely. I mean, I think the tone of Zeppelin is kind of what got it for me. Just, those songs, that music. I can remember turning the lights off and playing Dazed and Confused and, having good times with friends, doing,
I can remember the first time my dad ever played Led Zeppelin 1 for me, and then that first lyric of "Whole Lot of Lovin'" just sounded out of the speakers. And I was like, "What was that?
What?" Yeah. And the way they mixed it, and that's all Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page was a producer, and in the first couple albums, no, but I'm sure he drove the train. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely drove.
Definitely.
Yes.
But yeah, we've definitely hit some real rabbit holes today.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any suggestions or anything like that, like I said, I close out every show with telling you, leave us a comment on Facebook. I do check it every day. Scott checks it all the time.
Yep.
We do appreciate all your comments, and we will answer all the ones that we can. And you never know, you may become a show.
That's right. I mean, we are always looking for things to talk about that is interesting. Someone a little bit to learn something, and I say I didn't know about that, and that's what we're trying to do here at the Rabbit Hole with Cardosi and Reese. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in again. Check us out. We would love to hear your comments and what you think about the show. Did you learn something? That's what it's all about?
Yeah, did you have some fun?
That's right. Have some fun, learn something, and put up with us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Scott
Peace
Reese
out.
here with Rob Cardosi. This is the Rabbit Hole with Cardosi and Reese. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Peace.